Okay, hey everybody, this is Jim Fear, and I am back with Chapter 2 of Sandra Hill's The Reluctant Viking. As the last one is, this one is going to be a drunken reading. I have some Lion Stout and a Dead Guy Ale over there, and some J&B blended Scotch whiskey. And I'm ready to get down on Chapter 2. I've had a kind of long week. And I wanted to do something kind of fun and put myself through a little bit of hell at the same time. Now, for those of you who might be new to this channel, a while back, I'm just gonna explain this right quick. A while back, I was talking with a couple of my friends over Skype. And one of them, I think I was talking with Sweet Apple Analysis and Blind Skywatcher. One of them found, it was probably Sky, found this dramatic reading, quote unquote, it was fucking hysterical, of an excerpt from a Sandra Hill novel. And this woman writes primarily romance novels. So this guy was reading, and we were dying laughing at this. So of course, my dumbass, I went and found her website. Turns out she's got like 30 books. I found the Viking series, the Time Swept series. That's it. That's the name of it. Sorry. It's been a couple of months since I actually put my nose back in this book. The Time Swept series, and I found the first one, which is called The Reluctant Viking. And I bought it from a used bookstore, of course. I'm not about to actually pay full price for a fucking trashy romance novel. And I told them that it would be a fun idea if I did drunk readings of this on my channel, since I already do like the creepypasta narrations and things like that. So that's what I did. I went out and I bought the book, and Chapter 1 is already uploaded. I don't remember if I put it into a playlist, but you can definitely find it if you go back through my video library. So if you want to go listen to me read and react to Chapter 1 of this novel, you can go do that. I think it's probably about somewhere around an hour long. So if you've got the stomach to stick around through that, then, you know, have at it. That is, if you want to understand the story, why you would, I have no idea. But that's probably required watching, or listening, rather. It's just a still image of the cover of the book. But that's probably required listening. But if you don't care and you just want to hear me react to bad literature, then, you know, continue. Keep listening. It's really not that big a deal. This is just for fun. Anyway, so let me just fortify myself with some scotch here, right quick, because if the last chapter, I remember the last chapter, if the last chapter was any indication, this is gonna be bad. And I mean like bad writing, not like, you know, horrible things are happening in the story and shit. But yeah, here we go. It's been a while since I had J&B. That shit kicks. Yummy. Alright, get a good light source. And if you hear pages turning, I'm actually reading from the book. I didn't download a PDF of this. I actually bought a physical copy, so that's what I'm reading from. But, okay, here we go. Chapter 2 of The Reluctant Viking by Sandra Hill. Ivar is vicious, but not lack-witted. He would never send a simple-minded wench to spy, Thork stated emphatically. And yes, the main character, the quote-unquote reluctant Viking, his name is Thork. 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 You didn't hear me wrong. Peering over his shoulder at Ruby, whose blood-suffused head bounced against his back with each wide stride he took. Who in the name of Odin are you? Simple-minded, Ruby protested, but the word came out garbled and unintelligible considering her position. Sorry, I'm also smoking, so... A sharp object pressed against her waist, and she shifted slightly as best she could to relieve the pressure. Twisting her head sideways and looking up awkwardly, she saw an intricately carved brooch which held together the edges of a short shoulder mantle. The design profiled a writhing animal with limbs contorted out of recognition. Surely it wasn't a coyote. That would be too much of a coincidence. No, it was probably a wolf. And it appeared to be solid gold! Exclamation point. That's important. Unable to see it closer, Ruby dropped her head down, laying her cheek against the small of Thork's back. Her skin prickled with delight at even that casual touch. The familiar musk of his skin comforted... I'm sorry, I'm laughing too hard. The familiar musk of his skin comforted her jarred senses. Olaf. Oh yeah, Olaf. I remember Olaf. Olaf's my favorite character so far. Olaf and two other men walked beside Thork, sharing opinions about the unlikelihood of Ruby being a spy. All agreed that Sigtrygg... And yeah, I went over the pronunciation issues in the last video, so go watch that if you want to know why I'm pronouncing it like that. All agreed that Sigtrygg must be the final arbiter of her fate, but wondered how he would react to even the possibility of the hated Ivar infiltrating Jorvik. In soft, guarded voices, they also updated Thork on recent events in Jorvik. So unimaginative. You can at least say... They also updated Thork on recent events in their home. Something like that. It just gets repetitive. Sorry. It's my inner critic coming out. Inner critic. Sigtrygg expected you at Sennight past. Expected you a Sennight past. A Sennight. S-E-N-N-I-G-H-T. Sennight. Is that how you pronounce... You know what? I don't even fucking care if that's how you pronounce it. That's how we're pronouncing it. A Sennight. We have all suffered his wrath, complained a young man with flowing silver blonde hair, whom Thork had called Selleck earlier. Even from her position, Ruby could see that the exceedingly handsome, almost beautiful male drew the admiring attention of many of the passing women. Yeah, if you're wondering why I'm fucking up so bad, it's because this is a blind reading. Usually when I do the creepypasta narrations and everything, I've read it beforehand several times, and I cut out all of the fuck-ups and everything. This ain't gonna be like that. This is for fun. Yeah, so the fuck-ups are staying in. Lion Stout. Delish. Thork swore aloud using a famous Anglo-Saxon word that survived even to the 20th century. Anyone want to guess what that word is? Sigtrygg chomps at the bit to return to Dublin and reclaim the throne from his cousin Godfred, Selleck added. Everyone in his Viper's Nest court suffers his raging temper outbursts as he waits for you. So Sigtrygg still hopes for a united Northumbrian Irish kingdom? Thork questioned. Yea, and more. He cannot see that the Saxons lay waste our lands. And no, I didn't skip a word. Lay waste our lands. While he and his cousins bicker over power among the two countries. Selleck answered. Olaf added, he tries to force a pagan government on Christian Danes who have lived here for generations and are no longer content with the old ways. Well, apparently she's attempting to stay at least partly historically accurate. I tell you, Thork, when Viking fights Viking, the bloody Saxon will be the winner, Selleck asserted vehemently. I see now why Sigtrygg stews, Thork said pensively. And 'twould seem our fair maid here has much to fear if our king rages so. He swatted Ruby on the behind for emphasis, calling everyone's attention back to her. 'Twill depend on Ivar's mood, Orc stated. Orc. Sorry, I've been watching, like, Warhammer 40k stuff, and I'm kind of fixated on that. 'Twill depend on Ivar's mood, Olaf stated matter-of-factly with a shrug of unconcern. If he be of a mean temper, as he is wont at the flip of a coin, he will likely behead her on the spot, or mayhap flay all the skin off her body just to amuse himself. Behead her? Flay her? To amuse himself? Ruby's stomach churned. Or spread her legs and skewer her on the spot if she appeals, Selig drawled with suggestive chortle. Or bugger her like the boy she appears. Thor's toenails! Is that actually, like... No. Is that actually a thing? Thor's toenails. Is that a curse? Is that supposed to be a curse? Jesus. Jesus Christ. Too much meat under his belt, and 'twill not matter a whit if she be fair or barley-faced, I want. Barley-faced, that's a new one. Thork added with unflattering frankness. His deep voice held a trace of laughter. Sigtrygg can be a man of uncommon appetites in all ways. Comes of being a berserker, I say. Wild in battle, wild in bed, or so I've been told, Selig interjected lewdly. But, even so, I cannot fathom Sigtrygg being attracted to this scrawny bird. Thork laughed and pinched Ruby's bottom to halt any protest she might be contemplating. But you forget, Selig, our king relishes the odd perversion. Didst ye hear of the knight Sigtrygg... ... The men laughed companionably when Thork's risque story ended. It involved a nun, ropes, and a wide variety of feathers. That honestly sounds a hell of a lot more interesting than the story we're currently reading. Ruby was not amused. Thork had probably invented the sexual tale to alarm her before meeting the king. She punched him in the back, hoping to stop his laughter, to no avail. It was like pounding a brick wall. Then Thork turned serious, stating softly in a hushed voice, "Actually, Sigtrygg's mood is sure to sweeten once he hears my news." He paused significantly to get the men's full attention. King Athelstan would strengthen the alliance between Wessex and Northumbria by wedding his sister to our ruler. At first, stunned silence prevailed. Then they all protested at once. Thor's blood! The gall of the Saxon! The proposal smacks of trickery! Why would the king give his own blood to mix with a heathen dog? 'Tis what the Saxons call us Vikings, and worse! After they all vented their consternation, Selig said, "They say the Saxon king be godly handsome. Did ye find his sister pleasing, or skinny and horse-faced like the other Saxon bitches?" I'd just like to clarify that a woman wrote this. Okay, this is a woman's writing here, so don't get mad at me. Direct all complaints to Sandra Hill. Thork laughed at Selig's one-track mind. What difference? Our power-hungry Sigtrygg would wed a pig if 'twould bring him more lands. So think you there will be a royal wedding? God, this is... Some of this shit is tough to wrap your mouth around. 'Tis uncertain, Olaf, but I trust not these Saxons. Even Athelstan, who has been fairer than most. Some say he walks the same line as his grandfather, the so-called Good Alfred. Still, 'twould be wise of Sigtrygg to proceed slowly, and watch his back. All agreed. Then Thork turned to another man, who had not spoken yet. What think you, Knut? Okay. Yeah. His name is Knut, spelled C-N-U-T. Knut. So we're going to call him Knut. God, I'm so glad that I have alcohol right now. Like, y'all don't even know, man. dear fucking hell. Knut. Jesus. Okay, no. Okay, on with the story. Ruby craned her neck to see him. The older man spoke slowly, with authority. The Saxons teach us treachery at every turn. The greedy bastards have chopped away at the Danelaw like bloody berserkers. 'Tis little more than a score of years since I stood with Guthorm and when King Alfred agreed to the Danelaw boundary between Viking and Saxon England. A respectful silence followed his words. Okay, let's have a little bit of a respectful silence for Knut's words. Alright, that's enough of that. Our territory then ran up the Sorry, I have trouble with this. The Thames. I know that's not the right pronunciation of that. The Thames to London, along the sea to its source, on to Bedford, then up the River Ouse to Watling Street, Knut went on. But what have we now? Little more than Northumbria, with Jorvik as our centre. A pissant in the midst of a beehive. That's a good one. Credit where it's due. That's a good one. Ruby heard him spit for emphasis, then add, Even that they begrudge us. The 5 boroughs we Vikings founded. Lincoln, Nottingham, Derby, Leicester, and Stamford. All taken. Mayhap you forget the lies and deceit, Thork, on both sides. But mark my words, blood will spill soon, wedding or no. Ruby interrupted then. She could wait no longer. Thork, put me down. I'm going to throw up. Thork ignored her complaint and continued talking to his companions as they walked through the ancient walled city, along the bustling, narrow streets. Even from her upside-down perspective, Ruby saw the Vikings they passed do double takes at the remarkable spectacle she presented. Long blonde braids swirled as young girls turned quickly. Mustaches twitched on men's hugely bearded faces. The myriad smells and sounds of the tightly congested market area assailed Ruby's senses. Church bells rang out the noon hour. Church bells? In a Viking city? How odd! Pigs and chickens squealed and squawked from their market stalls. Wooden-wheeled carts rumbled by laden with produce. Hawkers cried out their wares. The smell of dung, crated fish, tanned leather, and horseflesh mixed with the sweet river breeze. Ruby really did feel sick now. She started to gag. Do not dare! A suddenly alert Thork warned and immediately allowed her to slide to the ground. Ruby's shaky knees buckled, and Thork grabbed her shoulders to hold her upright. Holy Thor, you look peckish. Do you ail? Ale. A-I-L. Ale. I assume that, are you sick, is what he means. God. This is just so, like, cliche, I guess is the word. Like, every step of the way, this novel is really fucking cliche and, like, exactly what you would expect out of someone who was doing your stereotypical Viking story. You know, it's not, like, really creative where they take the Vikings and do their own things. No, she's, like, the Viking gonna fuck the chick from the future. That's her overarching thing. Or rather, the chick from the future gonna fuck the Viking. It's just so, like, every fucking word in this book is so laden with stereotype and cliche that it made me forget the word cliche for a moment. That's how bad this book is. This book is making me dumber. I am forgetting words because of this book. Read it at your own peril. Ruby wanted to say something sarcastic, but bile clogged her throat. Thork must have noticed something amiss in her face, because he pulled her to the side of the road so people behind them could pass. Then he motioned for his companions to continue on to King Sigtryg's palace without them, telling them he'd follow shortly. "Take deep breaths," Thork suggested in a surprisingly gentle voice, which was at odds with his earlier behavior. He's beginning to soften as he sees the female in distress. Excuse me. He took her hand and led her toward the river, which ran behind the buildings lining the busy thoroughfare in an orderly fashion, so close that their eaves almost touched across the narrow alley-like streets. Thatched roofs covered rectangular structures made of primitive wattle and daub. Daub, D-A-U-B, daub. Branches interwoven horizontally. They fucked me up on that one. Branches interwoven horizontally and filled with clay, straw, and hair, and hair? Ew. Then plaster. Long backyards stretched down to the river, distinguished from their neighbors by post and withy fences. Withy. I'm not familiar with that word. Withy. W-I-T-H-Y. I'm gonna have to look that one up. Craftsmen worked and sold their wares on tables set up under awnings in front like a giant flea market or street bazaar. Are those homes or businesses? Thork pulled her alongside him as they neared the river, her hand still held firmly in his much larger one. Both. On Coppergate, many artisans and merchants live and trade. The buildings combine homes, workshops, and markets. Where you come from, is it not the same? Apparently, this chick never played Skyrim. This is like common knowledge, you know? That's all you need. You just play Skyrim, you kind of get the general picture of Viking. No, I'm not claiming that Skyrim is an accurate picture of ancient Norse history, okay? It was a joke. Calm down. If there are any history buffs out there that want to lash out. Ruby noticed a slight narrowing in Thork's piercing eyes as he asked the question, and knew his kindness masked a motive. He wanted information from her. "And this?" Ruby asked, disregarding his question about her home and pointing to the river which flowed near their feet. She felt better now, although her stomach still churned with nervousness. Comma. Comma, 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 comma. Is it that fucking hard to... Look, bad punctuation really gets to me. It makes me legitimately fucking angry. So she felt better now, comma, although her stomach still churned with nervousness. It kind of breaks up the sentence, it makes it flow a little bit better. Sorry. The Ouse. 'Tis a tidal river. It flows in from the North Sea by way of the Humber River, he explained, pointing to serpentine ships moving gracefully toward the harbor. He answered her questions with consideration, but Ruby had known this man too long not to... Too long? She just fucking met this guy! Not to sense the impatience underlying the even tone of his voice. Like, literally, they have known each other for like an hour and a half max. Like, she just got off the fucking boat. And she's talking, and the prose is talking about, she's known him for too long to be... No. Bullshit. I call bullshit. Although he is meant to be like, dream or whatever representation of her husband, so he's kind of like analogous to her husband or something like that, or he is her husband in a past life, or this is all a dream and he's meant to represent her husband. I don't know, we haven't gotten that far yet, but I call bullshit on knowing him too long to not sense the impatience underlying the even tone of his voice. With fluid grace, he dropped down to a large boulder and indicated with a jerk of his head that she should join him. Ruby swallowed tightly as her... Sorry, the monitor goes dark every few minutes if I don't keep moving the mouse. So if I stop and you hear a thunk, that's what that is. Because I don't know if Audacity is still running with the monitor quiet. So, I don't know. That's a technological marvel I'll have to figure out later. Ruby swallowed tightly as her leg brushed his warm, sinewy thigh. His nearness kindled feelings in Ruby that had been dormant much too long. I'm not gonna make a crude joke. I'm not gonna make a crude joke. I'm not gonna make a crude joke. It has become dramatically apparent that I need another shot. So, yeah, I'm gonna do that. His narrowed eyes studied her in a shrewd, assessing manner. Ruby could almost see his mind working, because he's that fucking simple. You can actually see his thoughts crawl across his stone slab of a face. That was my addition. That was not actually in the book. If she was a spy, did he really think she would spew out all her secrets so easily? Probably. Dear God in heaven. Are you not familiar with the Ouse? It flows through Ivar's land too, does it not? Thork probed blatantly. Ruby decided to have fun with this overly suspicious Viking. I don't really know. The only river near me is the Mississippi. Then she clamped her hand over her mouth as if she'd just disclosed something she shouldn't have. The whatever you said, Thork exclaimed. God's breath! I have heard naught of it. Really? It's one of the largest rivers in the world. I thought everyone had heard of it. Ruby batted her eyelashes at him innocently. Lord, he was a handsome man. Even better looking than Jack had been at that age. Momentarily lost in sweet reverie, Ruby sighed. I am having way too much fun. A kaleidoscope of images flitted through her mind. Jack in a white tuxedo at their senior prom. Jack in a black tuxedo on their wedding day. Jack wearing nothing on their wedding night. I'm sorry, this is too ridiculous for me to not pause to laugh every now and again. Ruby's face flushed at the unbidden recollections. She couldn't think about Jack just yet and what his absence would mean to her life. Later. She would think about Jack later, when she was stronger, more in control of her emotions, better able to handle the anguish. But the resemblance between Thork and Jack disconcerted Ruby. The sharp planes of Thork's deeply tanned face mirrored her husband's, even though his long hair glistened like white gold in the sunlight, no doubt due to the bleaching effect of long sunlit days on board ship. Even his devastating smile displaying large white teeth was the same, right down to the one slightly crooked incisor. The only difference was Thork's more muscular body, probably strengthened by the necessity for battle readiness, and probably, that's what it did. Yeah, that's what did it. That's what did it. It was probably, maybe, we don't know. We don't know. It might be that Thork just likes to work out. You know, he might be a lifting enthusiast. You never know. But it might have been needing to be battle ready. It might be. Small chance. You know, we're talking like 10% of the possibilities is battle readiness, and the other 90% is, well, this dude probably just likes to lift. We'll never know. Or we might. Depends on what happens later in the book, and if that's actually expounded upon, which I highly doubt. And an ugly scar above his right eye which cut right through his eyebrow. Her fingertips ached to touch his rock-hard body, to investigate the differences. Intimately. Sorry, I couldn't resist. I couldn't resist. I had to, This is just too fucking ridiculous. Shivers of delight rippled through Ruby's body at the enticing prospect, and, without thinking, she blurted out on a whisper, "You take my breath away." To Ruby's mortification, Thork raised one eyebrow questioningly, understanding perfectly what she meant. Good heavens, she'd been gawking at him like a hormone-humming teenager. With supreme conceit, he winked at her knowingly. Criminy! Women probably swooned over him all the time. Criminy! Criminy! Are you fucking with me? Criminy? Criminy! That's literally a sentence in this, the one-word sentence, criminy. She used that word. Maybe she's, like, raised differently than I was, but, and very probably, but, criminy? Who the fuck uses the word criminy anymore? Sorry, I'm having trouble processing this book. I'm sure you would have much the same trouble if you were actually reading it. Slightly drunk into a microphone yourself. Just as Ruby started to turn away from him... Just as Ruby started to turn away from him in embarrassment, Thork raised his left hand to brush a God damn it. This is the problem with reading drunk. Thork raised his left hand to brush a breeze-blown tress from his face. Ruby inhaled sharply. The pinky finger was missing. She grabbed his hand and tenderly touched the place where the finger should have been. What happened? How did you lose your finger? Thork shrugged. Ain't no thing. That's not the fucking book. My half-brother Eric chopped it off when I was 5. He aimed for my male part. You can't just say, he was aiming for my cock. You can't just say that. That's not proper for Viking speech. He aimed for my male part, but then he always was a poor swordsman. He grinned at the shock on her face, but his eyes told a different, pain-ridden story. Eric Bloodaxe, they call him. Appropriate, would you not say? Oh, Thork, how sad. Caught off guard at first by her concern, Thork darted her a curious glance. Then touched the scar on his face. He was unsuccessful in removing my eye as well. 'Twas long ago, though. 'Tis no longer important. Ruby studied Thork, and her art... God damn it, sorry. And her heart ached for the pain he must have endured. She yearned to comfort him, to hold the memory of his ugly childhood at bay. Locked in a private hell of recollection, his expression turned bleak for a moment. It occurred to Ruby then that maybe, just maybe, she'd been given a clean slate with Jack in this dream or self-hypnosis or whatever it was. What fun it would be to go back to the beginning with Jack, knowing what she did today. She could avoid all the proven mistakes. She could capitalize on all the good things that had worked with them. Okay, problem. Thork and Jack are obviously two different people. Obviously. So, she is under some serious self-deception at this point. I think she's just got her panties in a knot over Thork. She just wants to fuck Thork. to fuck Thork real bad. She wants to fuck Thork really bad. That's what I think. She's got her panties in a knot over this Viking. And, like, this bitch is so thirsty, it ain't even kinda funny. She could capitalize on all the good things that had worked for them. A second chance! Wasn't that just what she'd prayed for before being hurtled back in time? Scanning Thork speculatively, she is way too fond of alliteration. Ruby considered flirting mischievously with the fierce Viking to lighten his mood, the way she used to do with Jack. Actually, she hadn't flirted with Jack in a long, long time. Maybe that was one of their problems. She inspected Thork through lowered lashes and grinned impishly. This dream business might prove interesting after all, because, you know, you can have all kinds of sex fantasies you want when you're dreaming. I don't get to. All of my dreams are fucking nightmares. I haven't had a good dream since before I was 16. But this chick, she gets to go back in time. She gets to hang out with Vikings. She gets to fuck the man of her dreams. You know, this is average person thing in dreams. You just get to have all kinds of sexual fantasies. Sorry if I get, like, really drunk really quick. This Lion Stout that I'm drinking is, like, 8.8% alcohol. Thank you, Sri Lanka. I love you. It's better than Guinness. And I never thought I would say those words. But, yeah, Lion Stout is better than Guinness. Favorite beer, best beer on planet Earth. Anyway, we was getting back to her wanting to get dick from this Viking. Sorry. I'm facepalming. Because you haven't seen what I've seen, because you're not, unless you have the book, you're not able to follow along. Her next line, you know what, I'm just gonna read it. Let you draw your own conclusions. Have you ever heard of Kevin Costner? She asked abruptly in a husky voice, hoping she wouldn't lose her nerve. Who? Never mind. It doesn't matter. I was just wondering. How do you feel about long, slow, deep, soft, wet kisses that last 3 days? She asked brazenly. That got his attention. Do you see at this point why I'm having trouble reading this book? Why I didn't want to pick this book up for, like, it's been like 2 months, probably more, probably 3, since I did my last drunk reading of this. Do you get my problem with Sandra Hill's writing? Why I didn't want to, like, it took time to work up to getting to chapter 2 of this book? Yeah, that's why. Okay? So if the next video in this series doesn't come for another 3 months, you can understand my pain. Ruby recognized the bright flame of desire in Thork's sapphire eyes before he deliberately shuttered them. But he couldn't conceal their quick blink of surprise. He opened his mouth as if to speak, closed it, swallowed, then stood abruptly. She and Jack had seen the Kevin Costner movie together. The Kevin Costner, because there's only one. Kevin Costner's only been in one movie, y'all. And it was fucking Waterworld. And if you don't like Waterworld, you're wrong. That's all there is to it. You're fucking wrong. Sorry. Go get a new movie to hate on, because if you don't like Waterworld, you're wrong. But she and Jack had seen the Kevin Costner movie together. The screen words had aroused them. The screen words? I don't understand that sentence. The screen words had aroused them both. The screen words. That one kind of broke me for a second. but I'm not gonna I'm not gonna devote too much time to figuring it out, because we're already like 40.5 minutes in to this, and we've still got pages to go. Like, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. So like 8 pages front and back to finish this. So this could take a while. At a glance, Ruby saw that Thork was no different. Their eyes locked. Acutely aware of Thork's scrutiny, Ruby parted her lips unconsciously in unspoken invitation. But Thork ignored the temptation of her lips as he regained his composure and swore explicitly. Fine words for a whore, mayhap, but be that what you are? If so, name your price and be done. He stood and paced, deep in thought, before confronting her again. Mayhap, though, you really do spy after all, he concluded with narrowed eyes. For a certainty, methinks you treat your situation much too lightly and hope to divert my attention. Your life hangs in the balance, wench, and you speak of kisses? Ruby offered impudently. Don't Vikings kiss? Thork blushed. He actually blushed. Ruby loved it. We like kisses fine, he rasped thickly. Suddenly realizing her game, Thork twitched his lips sensuously as he offered. Mayhap you would like a demonstration. Oh, God. We're actually getting to this part. No, I didn't think it would happen this soon in the book. I thought we would at least be to chapter 3 before she started trying to fuck the Viking. God damn it. Sky... Guys, I'm gonna fucking kill you. I know I took this up of my own free will, and I decided to do this, and I paid my own money for it, but I'm gonna kill you both. Be assured of that. Your end will come at my hands. So now I'm this far in, I might as well finish the fucking book. He obviously expected her to demur. Instead, Ruby decided to play along. Perhaps. Of course, there wouldn't be much attraction for you in kissing such a bony-arsed female as me. That is what you called me, isn't it? Thork grinned provocatively. How do you... Okay, no, yeah, that makes sense. Then watched with fascination as Ruby slowly wet her suddenly dry lips with the tip of her tongue. He moved enticingly close. Ruby thought he was about to kiss her, and she parted her lips reflexively. Instead, he placed his lips a hair's breadth from hers and blew softly until the dewy wetness evaporated. I've never heard a kiss described like that. Never. This is a first. In, like, all of literature. Ruby's senses reeled. But yeah, let's get back to the good stuff. Ruby's senses reeled. Thork's tantalizing sensuality ignited a flame in Ruby's midsection, which hopscotched to all the sweet spots in her body that only Jack had ever touched before. So she's wet, basically. Held prisoner by the magnetic pull of his drugging almost kiss and the compelling masculine scent that was Jack's alone, Ruby leaned forward, her heartbeat playing a rapid counterpoint to the hammering pulse in Thork's neck. Ruby recognized the white-hot sexual desire she hadn't felt for months with Jack. But Thork soon jolted her from her carnal reverie as he brushed her cheek with his warm lips, then whispered into her ear in answer to her earlier comment. "'Twas not your bony arse I was of a mind to kiss." At first, the insulting words didn't register on Ruby's muddled senses. She pulled away abruptly when sanity returned to jar her from her seductive trance. Thork followed his outrageous comment with a suggestive wink. The cad? The cad. Do people still call each other cads? Is that, like, a common insult nowadays? I mean, this book was written in, like, published 94, so we could say it was written probably somewhere in 90 to 93. I don't know if people still called each other cads back then. The only salve to Ruby's wounded pride was the fact that Thork couldn't hide his obvious male reaction to her. Obvious male reaction. Pay attention. Ugh, you always were crude. Thork cocked his head quizzically. Your manner of speaking. 'Tis strange. Not Saxon, nor Norman. A look of determination altered the thoughtful expression on his face, and he warned her. Before this day ends, by Thor's blood, I'll know your whole story or else. He pulled her to her feet and put an end to their conversation. Enough foolery. Too much time I've already wasted on such as you. Important business do I bring to my king. Tell me your tale, or tell Sigtrygg. Little difference it makes to me. I'll tell you, but I don't know if you'll believe me. His face showed a wary interest, but nothing more. Thork, this is a dream, Ruby explained tentatively. Thork stared at her, expecting more. When she remained silent, he snarled in disgust and turned to go. That is all? 'Tis your explanation? Enough! We are off to Sigtrygg, where I will be well rid of you. Thork, listen to me, Ruby pleaded, pulling on his arm as she realized how important his understanding might be when they got to the palace. He held himself stiffly, unyielding, but Ruby plunged ahead anyway. Thork, I come from the... God damn it. Sorry, the screen went dark. Thork, I come from the future, the year 1994. I know, it sounds unbelievable. It is unbelievable, but it's only a dream. Thork's eyes widened in surprise at her pathetic story. When she didn't elaborate, he exclaimed in disgust, "'Tis outrageous that you would try to dupe me thus. Can you be so addle-witted that a dream is the best excuse you conjure up for your presence in our land? A dream? The future?" He shot her a haughty look of disdain and laughed snidely. Fortunate for you that you did not mention this to the harbor mob. 'Twould be food for the vultures you would be by now. You must believe me, Thork, Ruby urged, speaking rapidly to forestall him and make sure she got a chance to explain everything. In the future, your name is Jack, and you're my husband. In fact, we've been happily married for 20 years. That is, we were happily married until lately. You left me today, and that's why all this happened. At least, I think that's why it happened. At first, Thork looked incredulous that she'd spout such an outrageous story. Then a slow-burning rage flushed his cheeks. Ruby rushed to complete her rambling explanation. I was really upset when you left. To think our 20-year marriage was over. I was crying, and I wished that I was 20 years younger and could start all over again. She raised her palms in a helpless shrug. And I guess my wish came true, except... Did I already tell you? I'm 20 years younger. Anyhow, I made my wish, but I certainly didn't expect to travel back in time more than 1,000 years. The strange thing, though, is this seems so real, yet I know it must be a dream. Or something. She looked up at Thork hopefully when she finished. 20 years of wedlock! Thork sputtered. Ruby could see his impatience growing to explosive proportions. Only 29 winters have I seen my entire life. You may dream, but I assure you I do not. I swear by Thor's hammer Mjolnir that I am alive and standing here, not in a damned dream. Explain that. And what would make you think I would believe such a story? Do I strike you as simple? Jack, Thork, it's the truth. We're married. We have 2 beautiful children. Can't you feel the bond between us? Bond? Ha! Not even a thread. I'm getting way too into this for my own good. I'm having so much more fun with this than I should be. Somebody stop me before it's too late. What are we looking at? Oh shit. Yeah, we're getting towards done, so I'm going to take another shot. And this is my third shot in an hour. So if things start to degenerate rapidly from here, it's the booze. And it's only 9:30 at night. Wow, I started early today. There we go. Yeah. This book is not easy to read. Sober or drunk. There we go. I get another cigarette. And we'll be good to ride on into the great unknown of Sandra Hill's, whatever the fuck you want to call this, writing, literature, I don't fucking know. I'm just kind of here and reading and reacting, because while I'm not getting paid to do it, this is a hell of a lot of fun. So, anyway, yeah, he grabbed her by the upper arms and lifted her off the ground and toward him so that her face was level with his. Which, you know, given the height difference, that's gotta be at least 2 feet. You're fucking 8-foot-tall Viking and shit. You dare much, woman, to try such lies on me, he informed her through clenched teeth. Excuse me. I told you an hour past, and I will repeat it one last time. No wife have I. Never have I seen you afore today, nor care aught if I ever see you again. That liquor doesn't want to settle. Willfully, nay, joyfully, do I place your fate in another's hands afore this day fades. Fair warning, though, wench. Try this tale on Sigtrygg, and 'tis certain few will be able to stomach the results. The contempt in his harsh voice forbade further argument. Thork's kind of a dick. Just in general. He's kind of an asshole. Thork laced the fingers of her left hand with his and pulled her along the still bustling streets, presumably toward the Norse castle. He practically smoked with anger. She knew she'd botched her story, but wasn't sure how she could have done better, considering her extraordinary circumstances. But still, she had to try again. What if I can prove it? He ignored her and dragged her behind him with his wide strides. What if I can prove it? Ruby repeated shrilly. Thork stopped dead in his tracks, and Ruby tripped. His right hand still held her left in a rigid clasp. Odin, forgive me, Thork said, looking up to the sky, then back to Ruby. I hate myself for asking, but what canst thou prove? Well, Ruby stammered, not having thought that far. Yeah, way to go. Way to go. Then she brightened and offered, Prove that you're my husband. Pray tell. Thork exhaled disgustedly, then released her and put both hands on his hips. She held her breath and asked hopefully, Do you still have that mole on your upper thigh? Thork lowered his eyes, but not before she saw the surprise in their blue depths. Moles be not uncommon, your statement proves not. No. Well, I think yours should be right about here, she said, touching his inner thigh almost at the groin. He looked shaken at her bold gesture and glanced from his thigh to her face questioningly. His baffled expression bespoke the accuracy of her aim. The mole was exactly where she'd said. She continued quickly, more sure of herself now. And you grind your teeth in your sleep, and you like honey on your bread, and peaches in season. You're left-handed, but can throw equally well with your right hand. And those long kisses I told you about earlier? Well, you do like them. A lot. Ruby put both hands on her hips and glared up at Thork, daring him to contradict her. His eyes widened in disbelief before he exclaimed, "A sorceress! I should have known. Wait till Sigtrygg hears this. There is nothing he likes better than a witch burning. He blames the curse of a sorceress for his once again. Drunk. Scotch. Good beer. He blames the curse of a sorceress for his mutilated eye. Too bad I leave on the morrow for Ravenshire, my grandsire's home in Northumbria. 'Tis likely Sigtrygg will declare a holiday to celebrate your slow demise. 'Twould be a pleasure, I am thinking, to throw a twig or two on the fire myself." Sorry. Got that smoker's cough going on. "You're scaring me. I'm not a sorceress," Ruby moaned. "What then?" Thork asked stonily. "A witch? Or a spy? 'Tis one or the other, I wager. But if you do spy, someone, most likely Ivar, has gone to much trouble to feed you information about me. For what purpose, I wonder?" He looked at her questioningly. "Either way, sorceress or spy, the deed be done. Your fate is sealed." She started to speak, but he shook his head with a finality that Ruby sensed wouldn't be brooked this time. "Enough! We go to Sigtrygg." Thork's coldness quickly extinguished any spark of hope Ruby may have been entertaining. She soon developed a stitch in her side, trying to keep up with Thork's rapid pace. She barely noticed her strange surroundings as they proceeded through the large Viking city. Stone-cold fear chilled Ruby's blood. A numbness crept through her veins to her fingertips, down to her toes, and up to her brain, which could no longer register coherent thought. This dream-turned-nightmare frightened Ruby to death. But the most worrying thing of all, Ruby began to realize, was a nagging suspicion that it might not be a dream after all. What if she really had traveled back in time? And now we're casting doubt on the whole time travel thing. Yeah, casting doubt on the dream thing. That was it. Sorry. Mind is starting to get cloudy. The rest of this is going to be fun. We only... Oh no, we're on the last page, actually. Damn. I was kind of hoping this would go on a little bit longer, but it looks like these are... Shit. Drop my cigarette. It looks like these are going to go on about an hour or so per video. Hopefully. But yeah, we're casting doubt on the whole, this is all a dream thing that was set up in Chapter 1, and it's really fucking transparent and kind of grating, but I understand why she's doing it. What if she really had traveled back in time? What if she never returned to the future, to Jack or her sons, Eddie and David? I think that's the first time her sons are named in the book, which is pretty early. 47 pages in. Where the fuck was I? To the custom lingerie business she'd painstakingly built from a sewing hobby to a thriving mail-order catalog business. Worst of all, if she were lost in time for good, she would never have a second chance to make things right with Jack. Desolation overwhelmed Ruby. She and Thork climbed a slight incline to a fortified area and passed through a well-guarded gate. All around the courtyard, nobly dressed Viking men and women stepped aside to make way for them. Thork nodded to those who greeted him. Curious stares fell on Ruby. They climbed steps to a massive timber and stone building, its wooden eaves carved with intricate Nordic symbols. King Sigtry's castle! At the top of the steps, Olaf stood, holding open a heavy oak door for her and his master. When she passed, Ruby glanced up at the giant and saw a gentle compassion there. For her! Did you have to accentuate that? Like, that's something that could have just been, like, when she passed, Ruby glanced up at the giant and saw a gentle compassion there that seemed to be for her. You know, you can't... You don't have to, like, accentuate every fucking thing that every minor character does. I mean, Olaf's my favorite character, but he's a minor character. I understand that. You know, you can integrate that into the other... into other prose to make it flow a little bit more naturally, but then again, shit like this is designed so that the author can accentuate what's important to them. So I guess that was important to Sandra Hill for as yet unidentifiable reasons. We'll get there eventually. I don't fucking know. I'm officially slarmy at this point. The terrifying realization numbed her. The cold fear which had flowed forebodingly through her blood earlier turned into daggers of ice. And that is Chapter 2 of The Reluctant Viking. And it's pretty bad. I mean, it's just... It's... The story so far is just trite. It's cliched. It's what you would expect from a trashy romance novel. I'm having way too much fun reading this out loud, though. Someone should stop me before I grow too powerful. But, yeah, I'm kind of lit at the moment. So, I hope you guys enjoyed, this, I guess you could call it a dramatic reading / commentary / what the fuck ever you want to call this, on Chapter 2 of Sandra Hill's The Reluctant Viking. I hope you will go and watch the first one, if you want, if you're able to fucking stomach it. I won't blame you at all if you're not. But, yeah. I think that's about good here. So, tune in next time when we'll be getting into when Ruby... Like, that's the fucked up thing, is that I'm actually starting to get interested in these characters. Like, the first chapter, it was nothing special. You can, if you go back and listen to that, you can understand why it took me fucking 3 months to get interested enough again to do another reading of this. But with the second chapter, like, and her about to get killed and everything... I'm getting a little bit more interested, not necessarily invested, but I kind of want to see where this story develops. Because I've never read a trashy romance novel before. I've never read a romance novel, period. I've read novels that have romantic elements in them, but I've never read a romance novel specifically. So, I'm kind of getting intrigued as to where this story is going in the future. And the next update in this series may come sooner than anybody, even me, expects. But, thank you guys very much for joining me. I appreciate each and every person who decided to stop off and watch this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you had as much fun listening to it as I did recording it. And if the fates smile upon you, you're just as drunk as I am while listening. So, yeah, I will catch you guys so far as this goes, in the next installment of The Reluctant Viking by Sandra Hill. You know, maybe next time we'll actually get to the sex parts. Because we all know that's all anybody fucking cares about when they're reading a trashy romance. But anyway, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and end it here because this has already gone on for too fucking long. But yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you tune in next time. And peace out. Be easy, everybody.